one of several #1 recruited players, rated #1 coming out of high school, going to Ole Miss, and then, bam, 3 years later, he is possibly the top-rated prospect, regardless of drafted position. Many experts considered him, pound for pound, the best player overall in the draft, and that's, of course, Mr. Laremy Tunsil. And if I remember the timestamp correctly, about 13 minutes before 8 o'clock in the start of the draft, 7:47, the draft was completely altered based on this Twitter feed, and also Laremy Tunsil's future, unfortunately, altered in a huge way as, again, a possible #3 selection, definitely a top 5 guy, plummets to #13 in the draft, still taken by the Dolphins as a top 15 pick, but cost him a ton of money, potentially a ton of money in litigation, financial advisement, everything that goes into damage control, and just trying to find the facts and come up with the proper story and get to the bottom of exactly what happened and find the perpetrators. Mike, this speaks to the the day and age that we live in, with social media controlling so much and having huge ramifications over people's lives, whether they are the ones to blame, the ones that initiated the issue, or they're just harmless victims.
Yeah, Mark, I talk a lot about the old days in college football, and I think the Laremy Tunsil situation was the perfect illustration of the convergence of social media, or the new information age, with college football, which oftentimes, particularly inside programs, are still kind of look back at the old days. When you look at players, you look at what happened to Tunsil. Cardale Jones at Ohio State was a very active social media. Khalil McKenzie at Tennessee, of course, whose father runs the Raiders, he's very active on social media, both engaging with fans and politically. So I think that drives coaches nuts when players are active on social media, because they want the players to focus really just on the academics, the football, studying the tape, getting ready, and leave all that other outside world distraction alone. Well, when you have college-age kids, they're going to be on Snapchat, they're going to be on Twitter, and they're going to see everything out there. Not only are they going to see what the outside world is saying, but they're going to give the outside world a chance to see in the program. And, of course, fans love that access. So, and of course, with that access for the fans comes a lot of danger for the coaches and the program, distractions for the kids. So I think that drives coaches nuts. And then you saw the impact it had on Hugh Freeze. So it has an impact on the program and the coaches as well. Back in the day, Phil Fulmer or Steve Spurrier or Vince Dooley could go to these booster club rallies and they could make jokes, and everything was okay because nobody printed it. It wasn't on video. Now, when Burt Bielema goes to Texas and makes a joke about the air raid offenses in the Big 12, it's posted. The video is posted on ESPN. These coaches are upset, and so there's back and forth in social media. That stuff used to never happen. So again, distractions. It drives coaches nuts. There's goodness to it. It gives fans access, but there's badness to it too, because it brings people. It opens those doors to a lot of things that used to be closed in college football. The recruiting process, the booster speeches, what coaches say to kids on the practice field. I know at Tennessee, you can get video of any open practice session, and so that's pretty enlightening for fans. So there's goodness to it, but there's badness to it too. I know it drives coaches nuts. The Laremy Tunsil situation is a perfect illustration of how it really hurt Hugh Freeze. It's probably going to hurt Ole Miss, at least reputational-wise. Don't know if there's anything there with the NCAA, but definitely smoke. And obviously it cost Laremy Tunsil millions of dollars and some reputational issues. So just a perfect illustration of the convergence of the information age with college football.
David, if you're like me, the initial reaction was, what a knucklehead, look at this, bam. But then you process it and you figure within several seconds, okay, look at the timing of this. This can't be him posting it. Nobody's that stupid. He hasn't done this in the past. Why would he do it 10 minutes before the draft? But still, NFL teams have to be extremely guarded, protect their franchises, and they're scrambling like crazy trying to figure out what the truth is and what this really means. And by the time that happens, the clock's ticking, the selections are coming off the board, and Tunsil drops from most likely a top 5 pick down to 13.
Right, and you're right. It was kind of knucklehead moment, and it didn't. You're right. It didn't take me long to figure out. You know what? This was not Tunsil. This was, the rumors of his stepdad, or now it's the financial advisor. There's a couple rumors out there of who this could be, and it seems like the Miami Dolphins may believe that it might be the financial advisor. It's a scary situation with the social media and these football players. It's at one point, Laremy Tunsil knew this phone was in his face. He's sitting there with a mask on and, smoking marijuana. And you have to think, there's, with who you are, this video is probably not getting deleted and it's going to go out sometime. And it came out at the worst possible time it could for him. And I just, I want to know and Mike brought it up, what is the black cloud now hanging over Ole Miss? How long does this go on? Does this hurt recruiting? What's Hugh Freeze's and Ole Miss's coaches' reputation in the SEC circles, and SEC coaches circles? We mentioned the article in Orlando in the article, Mike Bianchi saying that Jeremy Foley, didn't want to hire Hugh Freeze because of character issues. If he's right about that, what does Nick Saban think about Ole Miss? What does Brett Bielema? All these teams in the West that have to play Ole Miss each year? Mississippi State, of course, in-state. What's the cloud and what's going to end up being the reputation of Ole Miss?
David, there are so many dark clouds out there and so many controversies, and the news cycle is running feverishly so fast and so much, and it seems like something not to this extent. This was huge. This is like a top 5 story for SEC football off the field for the year, certainly. But I just think there are so many stories out there, and we get a new one every few days that I don't think it quite has impact in the black eye that it does on a particular program. Because if you look around, not just the SEC, but around college athletics and college football, those black eyes, they're becoming quite common, and some programs have a second black eye because they're just so common. So, Mike, anything before we move on to the NFL draft?
Yeah, Dave, to answer your question, I don't think anybody's going to say anything publicly because all 14 schools live in glass houses. But clearly, if you look at the Sentinel's report, I think that's a knock to Hugh Freeze's reputation. A lot of people looked at that 2013 recruiting class and said, "How did Ole Miss pull this off?" That just kind of reinforces that. But I think where it gets nasty in the college football world is on the recruiting trail. These coaches aren't going to say anything. The only thing they're going to say is, "Hey, look at Ole Miss. If you're considering Ole Miss, it might be a tough couple years with the NCAA." And that's really where it gets cutthroat between the teams, is on the recruiting trail. That's going to be, if it hurts them at all, it'll be on the recruiting trail.